A kiss is just a kiss at the corner of Queen and John. Citytv everywhere.
You are about to watch an investigation probing the unique qualities that mark those who disturb, challenge, and lead. It is the search for the original. These specially commissioned television portraits are presented by Moses Znaimer.
Crazy Horse, the conqueror of Custer at Little Bighorn, dreamed the battle, choreographed it in his subconscious while in a trance. And that's not so far from the way Robert de Rosier creates dance.
I realized that often I wasn't revealed what the work was about until it was finished. And I found that if I try to put a full explanation to what I was trying to create, I was stopping it from breathing. But by throwing the creative energy and just letting that flow, that energy going through me and going at it with absolute, complete energy, something would happen.
We live in a way that emphasizes and confirms the idea of progress. The idea that each new generation adds its insights to the knowledge of the past. However, we rarely speak of cultural loss. It's not only trees and animals, but ways of life which disappear, and yet we don't tend to think of this as civilization thrown into reverse. Instead, we avoid ideas that challenge the flattering notions of progress that place us at the very pinnacle of human achievement. Perhaps that's why we don't think much about those cultures that found their deepest spiritual realization in the dance. Kids aside, we don't dance much either. Where did it go? Fortunately, there are those among us who dance for our pleasure, who still know what it is to dance.
I think from an early age that definitely the dance was already there. I don't remember an awful lot about my childhood except that I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of friends. Our street was full of kids. And from the age of 2 on, there was a good feeling on the streets between all the children. And I remember my mother telling me, in fact, a few years ago, that one of the reasons she got me into dancing, which was unusual in the 50s in Montreal, to send a little boy to dance lessons. But she said she would see me move, and she saw the dancer in me. She said there was something about my limbs that were not like her other kids. And she saw a looseness, something about the way that I moved, just naturally, that just made her think of dance. And she herself isn't involved in the dance field, neither was my father. So from an early age, I think I was 5, I went to take some dance lessons, but at that age they weren't, they were more like expression corporelle, you would call them in French. So very dance classes for children, no training in any sort of technique levels. I remember finishing grade 7, and at the time I was still in Montreal. I had moved to Toronto, And the principal of the school was basically speaking to all the kids and basically telling them the kinds of directions he thought maybe would be good for them. And I remember going into his office and him telling me that maybe I would be a good bus driver. Which, nothing wrong with being a bus driver, but somehow it didn't feel like that's what I was going to do. I didn't say anything. I left his office thinking, gee, I don't know if I want to be a bus driver.
Mouth-watering seasoned ground beef, real cheddar and cool sour cream topping. Mouth-watering seasoned ground beef, real cheddar and cool sour cream topping.
I think I'm in love.
They're back. 2 Taco Supreme for just a toonie or 2 loonies. Or any way you slice it, it's still just $2 for 2 Taco Supreme. Only at Taco Bell.
It's big, big, bigger than big. The Bad Boy Big Sale. All furniture, all appliances, all electronics, and Canada's lowest prices. What a blast! Like this 19-inch Daewoo TV, only $268. And this 4-piece cappuccino bedroom, just $698. Plus, pay no interest till 2001 or no GST and no tax. Bike, walk, bus, and drive, but don't miss it. Who's better?
Oh, buddy!
In a busy clinic like this, things can get pretty crazy. Like the other day, a headache hit and I needed fast relief. I could have taken aspirin or Tylenol, but more and more doctors are now recommending Advil. They say just one Advil's tough on headaches. And they're right. One is often enough.
And now there's Children's Advil for 8 hours of fever relief.
On the off chance you needed one more reason to choose a Dodge Caravan, how about a lease rate of $249 a month or $289 a month for a Grand Caravan? But don't wait, because unlike some, these reasons won't be around forever. Canada's best-selling minivans, only at your neighborhood Chrysler Dodge Jeep retailer.
Certainly, I think that on a very primal level, the simple heartbeat is a dance. It has a rhythm. I think just the very primal feeling of responding to drums, is something that is alive in us, simply even in our bodies on an organic basis. The blood flowing through the heart involves a rhythm. I think though, for me, that there's the physical dance, which not everybody enjoys. Some people, I think, the idea of moving is very awkward. And it feels very unpleasant, even. But that same person that maybe doesn't enjoy moving or dancing physically might have in their mind another way of expressing dance, another way of feeling the dance in themselves. So certainly on a physical level, not everybody enjoys dance in the sense that I enjoy the action of moving. And that's very difficult to explain because it's trying to, in a sense, describe the sensation of eating an orange when you're very thirsty. Most of us have experienced that feeling, but trying to explain it to someone that hasn't is very difficult. So there is a certain experience, a certain sensation, which is both psychological and physical, about the rawness or the physicalness of the dance that I would say people have experienced on different levels. Some people, I'm sure, even in a discotheque would experience all of a sudden a real high where they feel their energy has absolutely no boundary. And that is certainly a level that the dancer tries to achieve. There is a point in yourself where you can kind of break the limitation of energy. That being carried on a much further level, we've all seen documentaries on people in different tribes walking on, entering a trance and dancing on charcoal or on broken glass. And that again is to show that there are places inside of ourselves that have no limitations. And certainly through the dance, I would say, and certainly maybe I can only speak for myself, is to always try, and sometimes totally failing, of course, but to always try to rise above limitations, both physically and mentally, where you use every once in a while, certainly most people that have been involved in dance, you achieve these moments sometimes where all of a sudden something is released. It's released and it's like it's no longer you that's in a sense dancing, it's something that is almost going through you. And I think that when you achieve in the dance a place where all of a sudden there is a level of you break a boundary. One of the beautiful part of it is it's not something that you necessarily you have control, that you do have control over it because it's something that you've brought on to yourself. But it is not something that you can necessarily hang on to. It is something that is simply happening. And it sometimes forces you to feel in those times the moment, to just accept that that moment has happened. And also I would say that they don't always happen when you think they will happen. It is not always something that can be eventually, yes, maybe one can mentally have complete control over them, but I find that for myself and what I have experienced, they sometimes come in a performance or in a studio when I'm trying to develop new choreography at the oddest time. You all of a sudden, it's like you never quite know when one of those moments of basically where the gate opens and you feel this flood of energy coming through you. And I personally like that. I personally like the feeling that you don't always know and you don't have control over knowing when that creative force comes through you. You look at nature and you see how every little bug, every little flower, anything that you see, there is absolutely no limit to how intricate, how endless the nature can be. And I think nature is only there to make us see ourselves, which is also nature in a sense. And I think that it is the beauty of knowing that there is no end to how the creative process can unfold. And certainly the power of imagination is a landscape that has no limit. And I'm certainly always amazed by how in nature you can, it's fascinating to see the different, the imagination involved in it. And for me also, where the sense of imagery has been important in the work is that often an imagery by itself will break the boundaries of the rational mind. The way that the mind sometimes, all of us, has a tendency to fall into a pattern as to how it picks up on what is real and unreal, or we have a way, of sometimes having a tendency of seeing things through, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, we see things through, there's a way in us that regulates things, and we see things the same way all the time. And often I have tried in my choreography to create imageries that doesn't give time to the mind to have a rational explanation. It skips it. It goes past it, and it hits you in a way that you receive something without having time to analyze it on the moment. You might analyze it afterwards, but on the moment it will give you a sensation, an experience that I find often the rational mind will block. I'm a strong believer that it is not always what you can explain that in fact affects you the deepest. Often once you can explain them, it's because they've been reduced to what the mind can understand.
Radio Shack has the products and brand names to make life easier for everyone, even overprotective dads. Radio Shack. You've got questions, we've got answers.
The Brick is making the largest purchase of Sealy and Sealy Posturepedic sleep sets in Sealy's history. And now they're all on sale during the Sealy Sale of the Century. Queen-size Sealy mattress sets start at just $289. Sealy Posturepedic queen-size sets start at just $499. That's half price. Plus, ask how you do not pay until the year 2001 on everything in the store. Don't miss the Sealy Sale of the Century. Now through this weekend. Nobody beats the Brick, home of the lifetime mattress warranty.
Your digestive system begins in your mouth and makes its way to your intestine. During this journey, many different functions happen so that your food can be digested. Good digestion means getting all the nutrients that your food has to offer, but the process can break down. Swiss Herbal has an assortment of 100% natural source herbal supplements that will aid your digestive system. Your mother was right when she told you to chew your food. Digest it all. Try Swiss Herbal.
Well, it's a beautiful 2 degrees and sunny in cottage country. And a reminder to campers, there has been a report of bears in the area.
Butter. You know, nothing tastes better.
People react to failure in different ways. I have a tendency to react to failure with anger. I become very angry because the frustration and the shattering elements that it does to your ego to not succeed with something. With me, it is often anger. With someone else, it is complete depression. They can't move. But I remember being in a show years ago, earlier on in my development, and I had spent 6 months developing this routine, which had, it was almost a cabaret routine. It was a piece about the war, and all of a sudden we ended up in my mind was like a Berlin cabaret. And we had a whole section to do with canes, with sticks. And not long, and I had rehearsed that sections for months and months, and not long into the routine on stage, my cane, there was a section where we threw the canes on the floor and it bounced back into our hands. But unfortunately that night, my cane went into the audience. It bounced the other way. And all of a sudden, this act was basically ruined. And it's just a small example that you can sometimes work for months, sometimes for years on something, and it is just right in front of your eyes, shattered. And I think that in whichever way that you react in an angry way, that you react in simply feeling, well, I have put all this work into this and it is now failing, it is not working. I think if you go just a little further in yourself and go, well, gee, I have to continue, I have to find the energy. There is a reason why I have failed. I have not gathered enough energy, or I have not, there's something that is making whatever I am trying to achieve not come together. And I think if you have the gift of taking your failures and turning them around, spiraling them, I would say, because the reason I use the word spiral is because studying Tai Chi in martial art, you find that the spiral is what deviates the force that comes to you, and you spiral it into another direction. And I think you can do the same thing with your life. When negative energy comes to you, when a failure comes to you, you have to go and find the resources in yourself to spiral it around, to give it a shift so that it, in fact, becomes a learning tool, something to simply make you go further. Unfortunately, it's easy to say, but very difficult to, in fact, put into practice. But I think that is certainly how I feel one has to treat the negative, is to twist it around and to use it to, in fact, move forward. Just like a wall, sometimes the only way to get through it, or when they're building roads through mountains, is to use dynamite, you know, to explode the situation. And other times is by going around it, is by going through and according to the circumstance, sometimes you have to use, I think, a lot of explosive force in order to get through a challenge. Other time, it is simply using the softness of your being. And I would say it works the same way as the dancers, maybe with injuries. Sometimes when you have an injury, you have to work through the pain. Sometimes with an injury, you have to simply be gentle with yourself and give it a rest. There are many ways, and it's an element we didn't talk about a lot earlier on, but the body, in a sense, is not really meant to do all the things that we do with it. But then it is where you realize the strength of the mind comes in. You can tell your body, you can actually speak to your body through the mind, through the higher self. And it is a beautiful challenge to work out problems, injuries, and to go, because you'll speak to any dancer. There is no such things as a perfect, healthy body. There will always be something that isn't totally there. And you have to use, again, the power of creativity with an injury. You have to assess what it is. You have to go deep in yourself and say, what is the best? What can I do to, in fact, rise above that injury in order to dance? And I think that is, again, just a parallelism on life, where we can't help but being hit by challenge, by problems. There is no such thing as life without problems. It's not possible. So it has to do with how do we deal with it, and what is the best way of not allowing life to destroy us, but allowing us to, in fact, conquer it.
Professional dancing makes greater demands on the human body than any other activity. After all, a boxer, a weightlifter, a swimmer, a soccer or a baseball player knows after a while which muscles will be needed. Dancers, particularly modern dancer choreographers, are in the business of making their bodies do what has never been done before. Robert Desrosiers refuses to accept the body's limitation. And his success in stretching those limitations of body and mind is what has made him an original. But what was it that his mother saw when she noticed that he moved with greater freedom than other children? Did Robert Desrosiers really have a choice? Or did his gift define him as an original from the beginning?